In today's video, we're going to be taking at the Death Guard rule preview for Disgustingly Resilient. My name's Alex, and you're watching Major League Nerd. Jumping into it, we see that Disgustingly Resilient's taking a pretty interesting change, along with the Plague Marines not only getting 2 wounds, they are now getting a -1 damage to a minimum of 1. So each time an attack is allocated to a model in this unit, subtract 1 damage from the characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. So it's nothing new in terms of rules. We've seen this before. All the dreadnoughts get that -1 damage, but we're seeing that now the not just Plague Marine time, but the Death Guard are getting this in place of Disgustingly Resilient. Instead of that 5-up Field of Pain, they're getting a guaranteed -1 damage. This is infinitely better against, not infinitely better, this is definitely better against those multi-damage weapons, whereas thing as a simple bolter which only does 1 damage, this just does nothing. But we're seeing a lot of gameplay changes in terms of weapons going from D3. We're seeing things go to 2 damage flat, so things like Power Fist, things like charged plasma, things like a lot of the Blood Angel weapons are going to 2 damage flat rather than 1, which means that this is actually getting a lot of mileage out of that. And if you're part of the bit more competitive scene, there's a lot of anti-Space Marine weaponry going around because the Space Marines are so dominant in the meta, which means that you're getting a lot of mileage out of this new Disgustingly Resilient role. Whereas if only one damage weapons are coming into you, unfortunately, this does nothing to it. But to counteract that, the Plague Marines are in fact getting that 2nd wound, as we've been waiting for. I think it's already fairly certain it's already been confirmed, but we see Games Workshop talking about it here. When the new codex launches, the Death Guard will be ignoring 1 wound guaranteed against any attack that deals more than 1 damage. When you consider that a Plague Marine, Death Guard possessed, Blightlord Terminators, and Death Guard Terminators also gain an additional wound in this codex, it makes the Legion a true force to be reckoned with. The 2 damage weapons, supercharged plasma weapons, we're looking at you. That are the bane of Space Marines of every stripe, simply won't cut it against Death Guard. And of course, larger, tougher units such as Plague Burst Crawlers, Mortarion will be harder than ever to drop to their wounded profile, let alone destroy. Death Guard are really becoming more disgustingly resilient than ever. So we'll talk about the Plague Marines. So they're going up to 2 wounds, which is awesome, and they're losing that 5-up Feel No Pain, but instead getting a -1 damage to a minimum of 1. So those multi-damage weapons, like we previously talked about, this is really good for that, whereas the 1 damage weapons, not so much. You probably, this is just a little bit of speculation, may get an access to a 6-up Feel No Pain through a Plague Surgeon. They may give that like the typical apothecary, that 3 inches of 6-up Feel No Pain, which will just give them a lot more resiliency. And that, it's not gonna be crazy like the old Leviathan list where they had, a T4, 2 wounds, 3-up save, 5-up invul, and then a 5-up Feel No Pain, but it still will be a 2 wound, -1 damage, 6-up Feel No Pain, which is going to be really efficient against things like autocannons and so on and so forth. Things like Terminators are now getting that 3rd, and Possessed are now getting that 3rd wound rather than just 2, which means that to just straight up kill a Terminator with 1 shot, you're going to have to be firing at it with a damage 4 weapon. When you think about it, it's pretty crazy just to take out 1 single infantry model. Granted, they are expensive, but you're not going to be able to just fire, a couple one auto cannon shot, kill it, or multiple auto cannon shots because you have to go through saves, but you know what I mean. So it's going to be taking a lot more firepower to remove a lot of these Death Guard units. A 4 damage weapon going into a Terminator, you're typically not going to have an insane amount of shots, so you may be only getting a couple through and only killing a couple Terminators at a time, but we'll have to see what else comes along with them. But that's making those Terminators, making some of the Death Guard's units that are typically known for being hard to remove, that much harder to remove. And then of course you've got those things like Plague Burst Crawlers, you've got the Bloat Drones, you've got the Malefic Blight Haulers, I believe, are the little ground gremlins, I don't know what to call them, and you've got good old Mortarion. All these things are getting that -1 damage. So if we continue to see a lot of those 2 damage weapons, they're losing a lot of efficiency against these units. You're not going to be wanting to fire those single damage weapons into a lot of the vehicles anyways, so you're not necessarily going to be missing the 5-up Feel No Pain, although it does feel real nice when those 5-up Feel No Pain spike and you end up saving it like 60% of those. That's awesome. But this is really going to discourage things from just only taking autocannons, only taking things that do 2 damage each weapon. 2 damage weapons, there we go, that's the phrase I'm looking for. It's really going to discourage that being the only anti-tank. It's going to make Death Guard something that they're going to have to look at, even even the good old Eradicator that everyone loves and no one hates and thinks is broken or overpowered. Those guys are going to get -1 damage. Granted, they're doing D6, they're pumping out lots of damage, but this will help the Death Guard a little bit against those crazy strong guys. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments what you think. If you're a Death Guard player, are you bummed about this? Do you see a lot of potential play, new list building? If you're not a Death Guard player and you're really excited to not have to have them roll 5 million dice every time, you know, you shoot at them only to have them save every single one, how does that make you feel? I'm curious to see how this changes the Nurgle demons. So we're talking about plague crawler, or not plague crawlers, plague bears and Nurglings. Disgusting Resilient will literally do nothing for a plague bear, whereas Nurglings, it might help them a bit, but we'll have to see what they go once the demon book gets announced, but who knows when that'll be. If you like this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe for more content like this. Anyways, guys, my name's Alex. I hope you enjoyed this video, and this has been Major League Nerd.